Welcome back, friends and colleagues. My name is Robert Doman, and in this video we're going to be looking at how to exhibit your games. This is going from why you should exhibit them, where you can exhibit them, what to do to prepare, and what I learned from doing one. So let's begin by talking about why. The most obvious reasons that you might be thinking and that big publishers and developers go to game conventions is to sell games, right? The idea that you are physically going somewhere and can sell something is the number one reason, I guess. But that doesn't mean it's the only reason or the best reason or why you should do it. The second reason is to market games, right? Is to put them in front of people and to knowing that that will lead to a sale, right? But we might be in the position where we don't actually have a game to sell yet, so I imagine that you can ignore that as well. But if you do have something to sell, then fantastic, right? And if you're an artist and you have other little things to sell alongside your games, then that's even better, right? Going to, a local fair or something would be beneficial. It would be definitely beneficial. But the reason why I think that you should exhibit your games is so people can play them. Because that's the reason why we make the game, right? We're making the game because we want other people to play it. We might be making it purely because we want to play it ourselves. But if you've spent any amount of time developing it, you want to see if it's a good game. And by putting it in other people's hands, you get to see how they interact with it in person, which is so valuable. Looking over their shoulder and seeing where they're getting, stuck. And basically, you're collecting feedback. They'll give you their initial thoughts, and it'll become very clear if they enjoy it or not, right? If they want to keep playing, that's a good indicator. They might also give you some fresh new ideas, because you've been looking at the game for so long. Having fresh eyes will be very valuable. But you just have to be aware that not everybody will enjoy it how you want them to enjoy it, if that makes any sense. We'll talk about that more in the what I learned. And if you know me, I did a game development degree, and that was maybe 5 years ago now. I graduated in 2020 during COVID, and during my 3 years doing that, we would always be having playtest sessions every Friday or something. We had a game in the Games Academy. It was like a studio space in a warehouse. All the teams that were wanting to do it would set up a little area that people can come and play the game, and then a feedback form afterwards, right? And basically this for me was just doing that again, but with lots of games that I've made and haven't really got to share yet. So why do we want to exhibit our game? We want to sell them, we want to market them, we want other people to play them, and finally, I think we want to share a piece of ourselves, right? If you've never seen somebody play your game before, maybe they've come around your house and you've played it on the computer or something, and you're like in development, maybe you've pressed play in GB Studio and built the game and they've played it and there's been issues and you've had to walk them through it. That's sharing a piece of yourself, but it's not the same as doing it officially, right? If you go to a place where you have a little stand, it has your name, it has your games, and you get to talk to people that you have never met before, it's in your head, it's kind of legitimizing you as a game developer. And I think if you work from home, that's actually one of the most important parts of doing this, right? After getting people to play your games, is making yourself feel like you are a game maker. Because I imagine that this is probably something you want to do with your life one day, right? Is to work up. This isn't the end all be all. This one game isn't it, surely. Maybe it is. That's fine. But even if it is, you still want to show off your games, right? You still want to say to people that I made this. And see yourself as a game developer and have other people see you as that as well. And again, sharing this piece of ourselves, we want to share it with our friends and family, right? We want to invite people we know. We want to share with them this thing. Or maybe people we've met online, right? We want them to come and we want to talk to them and show them what we've been working on in person, right? It's less about talking now and it's more about showing them, which is an important part of sharing yourself, right? And finally, about sharing yourself, it's about finding like-minded people. There might be other people going to this thing that are like you. They make games or they're creative in a similar space, and you might not find them unless you share what you're doing. Okay, we've talked about why. We now know why we want to be exhibiting our games, but now where can we exhibit them? And for me, there's two things. There's two places you can do it, locally or like big events, right? And I think you should always start small, local, right? Things that you don't have to wait a year to do and fly across the world to do it, or even pay to do it, to be part of, right? You want to do it on a small scale, simply, quickly, soon, and so you can try joining some fairs or art shows, or if you're at school or university, you could try and create something there. For example, in my library at university, there was like an entranceway, and there would always be like a stall there with some new thing, like people who were trying to share what they were up to, and try and get you involved, right? Sign a petition or whatever. There would always be something there, and sometimes there wasn't, right? So there's always space. And I'm sure if I'd asked, I could have probably got to share games there. I know that other teams in the year, or even people who were higher up, like the master's students, were doing that. So yeah, if you're at school, it's actually probably the easiest for you. But yeah, art shows, art fairs, other creative groups that are in your local area that are doing and organizing things that you just have to tag along, basically. Start a conversation with these people, or, if you're already in a club, or try and join a club. When are they showing off their work, right? And that's how I got in this exhibition, is from going to a previous exhibition at a pub that I go to, and basically wanting to be part of it. And I asked to see if I could be part of the next one. And obviously, because I'm doing games, Game Boy games is very unique, so they were very excited to have me. And I'm sure you could find something similar, right? And then the biggest step up, which we probably would want to go to if we were making millions, or we were wanted to make millions, right, is to go to a games convention where there are other games. People are going there to find games. They want to buy games. They want to play games. You're there to see, and they're there for you, right? So that's obviously where you'd want to lead to. That's easier to imagine, but it might be harder to get into. I haven't actually tried. Maybe it's a good idea to try. But starting small means you don't have to pay loads of money to get it going, right? You don't need lots of equipment. You can just do it as simply as you can. Shoestring budget. So yeah, think about that. So we talked about why. Why do we want to exhibit our games? Where do we do it? Now, how or what are we exhibiting, right? So for me, I'll tell you what I did. I got some pictures as well. I bought some more Game Boys. I put all my games onto cartridges, just with a blank sticker with my handwriting of what game was on it. And then I had just a little corner, a little display saying "Play Me" with my name. And I was just milling around if anyone needed any help, right? That's probably as simple as you can do it. You could probably do it simpler if you just printed off some posters and then had like a QR link to the game page, and they just could play it on their phone. I'm sure printing a poster would be cheaper than buying a Game Boy, that's for sure. So yeah, if we're talking about Game Boy, then you probably want to buy a Game Boy. You probably want to go then also buy a multi-flash card, something that you could plug into your computer, put all your games on, or one game if you've only got one, onto an SD card. Take the SD card out, put it into the flash card, put the flash card into the Game Boy, and boom, you're playing your game. That's probably the most efficient way of doing it as well, because what I did, flashing each game onto a different cart, meant that I was actually flashing over versions of Take It Racing 2 that I hadn't sold, which I deliberately wanted to keep for occasions like this. And each of that took a while, right? They take a minute to do. So it's not just like, oh, I'll quickly just throw them on. It takes like 10 games, right? It took a while. It took like 40 minutes to get them all on. So if I wanted to do an update, I couldn't just quickly do it. It would take a while. But the SD card is so easy, right? And you have to make sure that with the flash card, that the actual cartridge isn't broken, or like the battery in it is working. There's a lot of hassle with the flashing of bootleg carts, but the SD card thing is a great, easy idea. And you probably want to do it so you can play other people's games, right? If you don't have a flash card, multi-flash card already. But yeah, let's say that you didn't have Game Boy games and you just had PC games. You'd want to bring a laptop or a screen and a computer and a controller maybe. And then finding a power supply and like making sure that that's okay with the people running the event. That might be a hassle, right? So maybe having a laptop would be the smartest way, and having a controller might be the best way as well. You have to think about your specific case, right? Of like how how it's best to show your game. So once you've figured out how they're going to play the games, for me it was just they were just standing around. I would love for them to have like a seating area a bit. That would probably be a bit overkill and unnecessary. People didn't want to play for too long. They're not there necessarily for my games, and there was also live music on, so it was unnecessary to stand around for too long. So what else? I didn't do it, but you should probably have posters showing off your game. You want to pull people across the room to your game, and you also want to like help explain what the game is, right? Visually, so they know what they're getting into as soon as they pick up the device. On that poster or wherever, you could also put a QR code to link to your Steam page or your itch page to buy or play the game. That would be very smart. Or at least put your social media links so they can find it themselves or follow you and keep up to date. And don't forget to take pictures so that you can better announce when you do it next time, right? So you can have examples of what you've done to show what you might do next time. And don't forget to invite people. If you don't invite people, then you won't see any friendly faces, and it might be a bit more depressing, right? Just being on your own, and however it works. Inviting people means you get to say, "Oh, hello, thank you for coming." You know, it's a nice feeling. And then having your friends play a game who've never played your game before, that is great too. So why do we want to exhibit our games? To have people play them, to share a piece of ourselves. Where do you do it? Locally is very easy, and otherwise we're probably going to be working up to a games convention. What do? We make sure that the player can play the game, and we also have to make sure that there's ways of pulling people in and letting them know what they're doing. That's what you should be doing. That's how you should be thinking about it. So what did I learn from the exhibition, and what should you be mindful of? For me, I had obviously gone to the previous exhibition, so I knew what to expect. So obviously that could be a learning point for you. Make sure that you know what you're doing, what the space is like, what you can expect, how many people will there be, and generally set expectations, right? You don't want to put in £1,000 to make sure you got the best GameBoys displaying the coolest stuff. You know, you got posters on posters on posters, and you turn up, there's no space for that, and there's almost nobody there or whatever. So then you've wasted all this money and space and time. I kept it very simple, very small. I bought the only thing I actually went and bought was another Game Boy Advance SP that has a lit screen, because I knew it would be quite dark. So that means I had 2 lit screen Game Boys, and I thought that would probably be enough because it's a very small space. I didn't buy posters. I didn't create posters, which maybe I should have. I wasn't really too fussed. I knew a lot of people who would be going there, so it was more like to the people who I knew would be there, showing them my games. And I wasn't really pushy about it. I wasn't really too fussed. It was just nice to be there among other people. So if you go in with the intention of, I'm going to sell 1 million units of this game, and I'm going to meet so many people, and then it's not that, make sure you set your expectations, right? And regarding games, I had 7 or 8 games there that I had made put on cartridges, and I found that some of them are very hard to show, which for me meant that it was hard to explain the game, and then I put it in, and it takes a while to load, you know, like it has the startup screens and then like a tutorial, blah blah blah, and then they get into the gameplay, and the gameplay doesn't really explain itself. You had to have read, and in a tight setting, that wasn't useful at all. I'm mainly referring to Take It Racing 2, right? How it's a more mindful and slow game that requires you to sit back and think. While other games like Skelost or Office Combat were very good. You basically chuck it in, you press play, and then boom, you're in, you're jumping around, whatever. You're playing the game, and it's very clear what you're doing. So some games are harder to show, so be mindful of if your game is good to show or not. And if not, make it better to show. For example, the gameplay needs to be inherent, right? The tutorialization should be built in, like how Mario famously, you're meant to die once or twice to learn how you play the game. For example, you get hit by you hit by a shell, you jump to try and avoid it, and you end up getting coins and whatever else. That first 30 seconds is like a tight tutorial that's not named as a tutorial. You don't have to read anything, right? That's what would make the best exhibition game, right? And technically it would make a great any game, because the player should be able to pick up on the gameplay quickly, right? They shouldn't have to have watched all my videos, for example. And that's mainly because people don't have time at the exhibition. They might not be there for you. They're there to play games. And you don't want somebody sat on your game too long, right? Because they're clogging it up for everyone else. So you want to make sure that the experience is also short. And obviously I had a few games. It was less of that, but you can imagine at a games convention how if you only had 2 computers and somebody sat there for an hour, you've just lost however many people trying to play, right? If the game was 5 minutes long, there'd be 12 times more people playing it, right? And it should go straight to the action. Cut out all the title screens, the start screens, the splash screens, anything. It should just be like, put the game in, turn it on, boom, you're playing. Because that's kind of what it should be. That's kind of the experience at an exhibition or a game show, right? Especially if you have posters telling the name of the game, there's no reason to have the name of the game on the screen unless it's to be the place where like the player sits down and then they press start, right? But for a Game Boy game, it's a bit different. You turn it on, right? It depends how you're displaying it, but just be aware that the longer it takes to set up, the longer it takes for the player to know what's going on, and it slows down everything. It's harder. It's just you want frictionless experience, right? You don't want to be slowing things down. And you might even come to the conclusion that your game isn't very good for showing at these things, right? In those cases, you should if you're at an art show, you should focus on the art of the game, or whatever the focus of the show is. If it's an art show, maybe take screenshots of your game, show them off, right? Think about how you can show the game differently. That would be my advice. And if you do want people to play it, send it to them, right? Send it to people, and knowing that they might not play it because if it does take a while, whatever. But if they do sit down and play it, they're in their own home, they're comfortable, they have set aside the time. Another thing I prepared for, but it kind of did go wrong, is have backups. I found that the cartridge of one of my games, every time somebody would try to move to the next level, whether they won or lost, it would crash and it would just display like a debug thing. And it was a bit, I couldn't tell if it was the game cartridge or the console, right? So I switched to another one, which was I guess it fixed it. Sometimes it fixed it, but then still happened sometimes. It was a weird problem, right? And if I had another cartridge, it would have been good. But I only had one of every cartridge. If I'd had 2 of every cartridge, then that would have been me creating backups, and things would have gone a bit smoother in some cases. But basically, you just want to make it so you don't have to worry so much about everything. So, for example, I had those 2 Game Boys. I also had 2 Game Boy Colors and 2 original Game Boys. I had about 7 or 8 games that I'd made. So I had backups. And also I bought loads of batteries for all the other consoles. I brought the charger for the SP. One of them did run out of charge at the very end, but that was fine. But basically, you wanna make sure you can still show something if it all goes wrong. And that's why having posters and artwork of your games would be the perfect fallback, right? As you can still show something even if you can't turn on your computer, for example. And fourth, and I hope I did this, just be inviting, right? Be inviting. At the beginning, I had like my name thing and the games, and there was no like indication that you could touch them. There was somebody else's thing that says, please do not touch. It was like, I can imagine some people would be like, am I allowed to interact with this? But then I added a little thing saying, play me. And obviously then after that, I found that people were just picking up and playing them, which is exactly what I wanted. And when I was standing around, I was inviting people over to, hey, do you want to play one of my games? Often I found that the best ones were Office Combat and Skelost, and if not, Polaroid Antarctica. It's such a small, tight little game that has like a cute little thing. Very easy to explain. It's a quick game. It only takes 5 minutes to play. That was a perfect game for that, right? I couldn't really stand behind my thing like you could at like an art fair, right? It was more, there was like somebody's game art being displayed on a projector, which was cool. But what I'm trying to say with this is don't be in the way, right? Like if I'd stood there the whole time, it could have scared people off, right? I'm in the way. So by leaving sometimes and then, only approaching when it seems necessary, then you let people explore on their own and they can enjoy it in their own way, which is what art should be done like anyway, right? Otherwise, yeah, if you're sat behind a desk and you got all your games on desk, don't be afraid to pull people in, right? Be inviting, don't be in the way, and not everyone will care, right? Some people, for example, at mine, probably didn't care about the art show at all. They were there just there for the live music. When they did look around, who knows how much effort they really put into caring about the artwork. But then you're not worried about those people. Those people are living their own life. And the people who do care, you just get to spend more time on them. So yeah, just be open, be inviting. Make sure you think about the game's experience. And by doing it locally first, you're going to learn a lot, right? Like, I learned quite a lot from this. Although I used to do it 5 years ago, right? Have people play my games all the time. Seeing people do it again was so powerful. It was useful. It got me back into that feeling, made me feel like a game developer again, right? And yeah, I'm now more aware, and I think I can make my next games even better to show people. And yeah, if I do this kind of thing again, I'll definitely be one step ahead of how I was last time, and that's kind of all we really need to worry about, right? So I really hope this was insightful. Definitely consider doing it yourself if you've got something to show, even if it's in development. Like I said, first 5 minutes of the game is probably all they need to see. You're just legitimizing yourself, seeing if, because these people might want to follow you, they might want to buy the game in the future. And if not, it's just fun to show people stuff sometimes, right? It's not like we're doing this every week. We're not going out of our way to do this too much. It's just a fun little experience that you should definitely do. So if you came along, thank you so much. It was lovely to see you. You can play my games on itch.io. You can play them on your phone. You can play them in browser. You can download them, play them on an emulator. There'll be a link in the description. I'll put my patrons up on screen right now. Thank you so much to you guys. You guys are the absolute best. Remember to like the video if you like the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know what you want to see in the next video. Normally I make GB Studio tutorial videos. This was definitely adjacent to that. But that's all for now, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.